Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Today we're going to get into the cost of living right here in San Diego. Let me tell you, you know what it is. It says in the title, it's insane. So we're going to let you know everything and how much it all costs to live right here. So let's get into it. Howdy, howdy. As always, thanks for tuning in, my friends. I'm Erickson with the Beach Life Group right here in San Diego. And as much as we like making these videos for you, we would also like to help you with the real estate needs. So if you're thinking about moving out this way, number is popping up right now. Pause it, take a screenshot, whatever you need, save it for later so that when you're ready to make the move, you know who to call. Let's jump into the cost of living in San Diego. One of the biggest costs that you're gonna have, obviously, if you're moving out this way, is gonna be your housing costs. And right now, we're standing in San Diego Hills, which is a really good kind of snapshot of San Diego as a whole. You have the starter condos right down here, sitting about like $700,000-800,000. You have kind of the move-up detached condos right around $1 million. Then you have kind of that first starter home sitting detached home sitting about probably 1.2 to 1.4. Then you have the 1.8 to 2.2, and then way up on the hill up here, I don't know if you can see it, way back there, you have some very expensive houses with killer views. So it's a really good kind of, it's kind of San Diego in a whole. You got all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of how San Diego kind of works. So your housing cost is going to be, like I said, your most expensive cost. It really depends on what house you're getting, price points, all that kind of stuff. So you're going to be running those numbers with your lender and get the exact amount. So you know exactly what those amounts are. But as a whole, the median price point over the last 12 months here in San Diego for detached homes was $1.2 million. So it is pretty high. For attached homes, it was sitting about $724,000. So you can see, even getting into that starter neighborhood where it used to be a few years ago that probably $400,000 to $500,000 range, you can get into like that starter condo. That's not necessarily the case anymore. Now prices have gone up significantly over the past few years. So that starting house cost is going to be one of your most significant costs. So let's jump into each little section of your housing cost. You have, if you're getting a loan, principal and interest. Like I said, that's going to depend on the interest rates. Right now they're sitting like just shy of 7%. So market hasn't been as competitive when they're sitting like that, but it is still fairly competitive. The second part of that housing cost is going to be taxes, your property taxes. We'll get into other taxes here in San Diego in a little bit, but property taxes we're kind of like in the middle. We're not like the top of the top. We do have Prop 13 in place that does kind of limit the amount your property taxes can go up each year. So even though the starting baseline is pretty expensive, especially right now, it doesn't go up. It could only go up about 2% a year, but the base is going to be 1% of the purchase price of your home. So if you're buying a home and it's $1 million home, you're looking at about $10,000 a year for your property taxes. So that's just kind of how it looks. And on your property tax bill, there's a few other items on there. You're going to have potentially some bonds. You're going to potentially have a few other little items. You're going to have some like little tiny things that you'll see in there, sewers and mosquito. I couldn't think of it on the last video either. There's like a $5 mosquito thing that everybody pays on their, anyways, I don't know. It's not one of the bigger costs, but that is something you will see on your tax bill. One other thing, especially if you're living in like a master plan community, that's not a house. Houses are back here. If you're living in a master plan community, any of these new ones up here, kind of like 2000s and on is like a baseline for when that would all kind of start, when you're going to start living in those master plan communities that do have something called Melrose. They can get quite pricey. We just sold a home, or we're in escrow on a home right now in one of those master plan communities, and it could get quite a bit. So they usually go for about 30 to 40 years from the time that they build, and they're just to pay for the bonds. They're bonds to pay for the infrastructure and kind of building the whole area out. So you'll see it on a lot of new construction, and the new construction that we just are in escrow on, the yearly Melrose was about $4,700. So it's gets a little bit much. I mean, it could add quite a bit. Now, you don't pay it monthly. You do pay it property taxes 2 times per year. Now, if you have a loan, a lot of times it's just in an escrow account or an impound account. So that just will be a monthly expense. And then your loan provider or whoever is servicing your loan will take care of that when the time is due. And real quick, back to the interest part of your loan. One thing to be aware of too, if you're buying a townhome as opposed to a condo, most of ours are townhomes. We don't like condo, yes, downtown San Diego, but a lot of these communities are like right back here are like newer townhomes. They're like these 3 stories, you got a garage underneath, so you might share a wall or two, but that's kind of like a lot of the style that we still call condos. Whereas you get downtown, obviously you do have kind of those apartment style condos. But the difference in interest rates, I just chatted with our lender yesterday, I believe, and it comes out to about 0.25% more for a loan if you are getting a condo versus a detached home. There's a little bit more risk, you have shared walls, so the cost will be, it's not significantly higher, but it is gonna cost you a little bit on that front as well. And then one other thing too about property taxes, if you are moving from somewhere in California down to San Diego, or you want to, but you don't want to lose your property taxes. Let's say you bought it many years ago, your house, your property taxes are based off your purchase price, which is $250,000, $300,000, or even less. If you're 55 plus, there is a new thing where you could transfer your property taxes to a new home. So it's not straight up, there is some kind of rules going on, but it is something that you can do. So just keep that in mind. There is ways to kind of mitigate that, and things that California has passed where you can save a little bit of those property tax bill if you are 55 plus and you do qualify. And then housing, one other thing about housing obviously is the maintenance. We'll get into some of the costs a little bit down below, but if you do have an HOA, that's an additional cost. I would say average HOAs in here, some of the communities, I would say on the low end, just depends on each individual community for the HOAs, but I would say ballpark, you're looking about $250 low end to about $450 on the high end, and every little neighborhood is going to be a little bit different as far as what's included. Pool, tennis courts, amenities. There's HOAs in this master plan community where you have, it's a public park, but access to the park. They don't have a town center, they don't have anything like that, but they do have events throughout the year where they have some stuff where you come pick up a pumpkin, they have come grab a beer at the park throughout the year. So they do have events like that as well that are included with your HOA. So next up that we got to talk about is something that's boring, but it's also super important, especially right now, because in the past few months, especially if you're living out or moving out here, looking for home insurance, it can get quite pricey. A few places have pulled out, Allstate, State Farm, my guy Jake at State Farm, literally that's my guy's name, Jake at State Farm. Anyways, those 2 companies plus a bunch of others are no longer providing insurance to California. State Farm was saying that the cost of new construction has got pretty high, and also the risk of wildfires. So if you're in high fire zones, and it really depends on where you are. All right, so let me give you a quick example. We're in escrow on a house. We were representing the sellers. Buyers are looking for insurance. Our current sellers had a few claims on it. Just they had some insurance stuff going on. So that was one thing. Insurance claims, I guess, from what we've learned now, carry through the house for 5 years, so that can make your insurance more or less affordable. But also, since it is potentially in a fire zone, according to the insurance companies, it costs a bit more as well. So instead of their current policy that the current homeowners have, like 2 to 3 grand somewhere in there for the year, now they're getting quoted at 8 to 10 grand. So it's super important if you're looking out here, as soon as you can, as soon as you get into escrow, start talking to insurance companies. Like I said, we're talking to Jake, even though State Farm's not doing it anymore. He's trying to find some solutions. We're also chatting with brokers to figure out if we could find some places that are somewhat affordable to help all you move out when it is time to get out here. The next insurance is going to be auto insurance. It's just going to come down to, as with everywhere, your experience, your driving record, and I read also your credit score, which is interesting. So in San Diego, it's about $1,550 per year, and that's pretty standard. You know, obviously, if you are driving a lot more mileage, if you have a bad driving record, yes, it's going to cost you more. But as a good baseline, that's what it's going to be. But maintenance for your car, it's not too crazy. I got an oil change the other day. It's kind of like one of the main things you have to do out here. We don't have too much weather. You know, we're not super hot. We're not super cold. There's not snow. There's not salt on the roads. It's not beating up your car during the winter times. We do get a little rain, whatever. So check your tires every now and again. But the oil change was like $90. Plus, just go to Valvoline, it's pretty quick, drive through. So maintenance wise, it's not too bad. Yes, windshield wipers, all that little stuff is gonna add up, but it's really not too bad because while we are a commuter town, everybody does drive everywhere. We do have, we do put some miles on our car because, like I said, if you're moving out here, we do have public transportation, but everybody's driving their cars. So another cost obviously is gonna be gas. It has, California, you guys know, it is pretty darn high. I think right now though, it seems pretty cheap. I was driving by the other day, it was like under $5, which that's like a deal. So I think it was $4.79 actually. Now hopping into health insurance, a lot of companies out here obviously do provide the health insurance. If you're working for schools, if you work, it's company dependent. So it really just depends on what your insurance is, and it is quite high. I think in 2022, the average cost of health insurance, non-subsidized, for a family of four was $1,437 or thereabouts. And that's just, search around. There's a lot of really good healthcare providers here in San Diego. You have Scripps, you have Sharp, you have Rady's Children's Hospital, you have UCSD has a big one. There's just a really good healthcare system around here. So, and how it works, Kaiser's out here too. If you are in that system, that's kind of where you're gonna go. But San Marcos just got a new Kaiser, Scripps, Encinitas is building on. There's just a really good healthcare system here in San Diego. Now back to some of the housing costs. Should have done this one before, but housing insurance was the first one and last one. So that's why we're going with housing costs, other things you might need to know. So jumping into first thing is going to be utilities. So San Diego Gas and Electric is the main provider out here for gas and electric, and that's going to cover your gas and electric. Now water, every little district is different. There's a lot of different little water companies here in San Diego, but one thing to be aware of for San Diego is a lot of people have solar on their houses. So if you are moving out here, you're going to want to know, is it leased? If you're buying a house, is it leased? Is it purchased? How much does it cover? I'll give you two examples here. We were checking out a house with some clients over in San Marcos, and it was a leased solar system, pretty small house. So it was about $96 a month to lease it. And usually they're like 20-year leases or something with maybe an option to buy out. So sometimes the seller will buy it out before they sell the house. Sometimes you can buy it out as the buyer, but the cost on it was $96 a month. And then I don't think they live there all that much, but even during the summer times when they're using ACs and stuff, it was like another $50 on top of it. So it did cover quite a good portion of their bill. And the second example is another house that had purchased solar, bigger house, so they had a bigger roof. They had initial upfront cost, which can be quite hefty. It really depends on how many panels you're putting on there, but they basically have bigger house, so more electricity, more AC, more heating. They have a pool, they have more square footage, and the stuff they had on their house actually covers everything. So that initial upfront cost, but right now they're not paying anything. They also have a Tesla charger in the garage, so charging their car for free. Now, since I'm talking about Teslas, let me talk about, a lot of people do have them out here. You will see them in houses a lot. A lot of people have chargers since they do have solar panels. And one option I have seen to cut down, since gas is fairly expensive out here, people are getting solar, people are getting Teslas, and you can either charge it at your house, or some providers. I have a buddy who his wife has a Tesla, and they just drive it to her work, and they have Tesla charging stations for free out there. So her work's not too far away. Go there, park at the office, charge it all day, and you get a free ride. So I have seen that option as well. Now water and sewer is just like a minor cost, but water is going to be, depending on where you are, it's really going to come down to landscape. Even if you have a pool, honestly, I used to be in the pool business. To fill a pool, it's not that much. Even if you drained it all the way and filled it up, yes, it's going to add on to your monthly cost for sure, because during the summer times you're going to have some evaporation, you're going to have splash out, everybody's using it, but as long as you don't have leaks or anything, it's kind of a minimal cost. Now if you have landscaping, that's where it gets a little bit bigger, because some of the water companies out here, they do have, it's like a tiered system. So the more water you use, the more it's gonna cost you. So it really depends on what water district you're in. Like I said, there's a lot of them around, and depending on how much water usage you do have. A few more costs for your house. Yeah, trash pickup, it's pretty cheap. I think ours is right around $60. You pay it every 2 months, pretty easy. You get a big blue bin for recycling, get a big just trash bin. They also potentially will include a yard waste bin, a green one. So we have all those options. They want you to compost and throw it all in the green bin, all your food and whatnot, but it's fairly inexpensive. The other things that can be cost a bit, and they can add up a little bit, is your phone, your internet, your TV, and your mobile phone. And some people, like Spectrum, they actually offer it all. So you can go through all their packages. Beware, they do, I mean, it's probably like this everywhere, they do offer kind of an introductory price, and then it goes up probably 30 to 40% after the first 12 months. You could always call and renegotiate and kind of see if you can get a little bit cheaper price on that. But if you're getting Netflix and all that, you know, it does add up. Our internet's probably about 80 bucks a month. There is some faster internet coming around to different towns. I know Rancho Santa Fe had it, I believe Solana Beach. Right now they're putting some fiber in to Encinitas. The starting package for that, it's like super fast internet, is like 90 bucks a month. So there are some options, whereas you don't have options for your water. SDG&E is going to be your provider. Few houses do have a few different providers for internet, but usually you're stuck into Cox or Spectrum, and sometimes AT&T, you can get like DSL cable for your internet and stuff. So, but usually where you live, kind of think like a lot of places, they only have like those one or two options where you can pick your provider. And then real quick, back to electricity. Sometimes, depending on how hot it is, it's gorgeous here today, by the way. It's like 71. This is San Diego at its finest, even though it's been cloudy since like February. It's been a long kind of fall, not long spring / winter. Anyways, it does get hot, especially the further you get from the coast, the hotter it gets. The further you get towards the coast, the cooler it gets, which is nice. You'll notice too, a lot of houses have fireplaces, which is kind of weird, but you will have some times where you're going to kick on your AC and your furnace. Not all that often, but you will for sure. Especially, let's say, San Marcos, Escondido, certain parts of Vista, certain parts of Rancho Bernardo, Poway, Scripps Ranch, like all those kind of inland areas. Yes, Santee, El Cajones, you're probably gonna want and need some air conditioning. So those costs can get quite high, especially in the summers. They have like flex rates and stuff where if you run them during certain times, it's going to be more. If you run your washer or all those big appliances, like I think it's after 4 o'clock, it does get more expensive. So you do have certain ways to cut down on that a little bit, and you won't have to use your AC and your furnace all that much, but you will want to kick it on every now and again. So one other cost that's probably not too much different than where you're coming from is your food costs. Now, got a family of 4, so our grocery bills are right around 250 bucks per month. That's just food, that's just at the house, that's not going out. I'll give you a few examples of going out to eat. That gets a little pricey, but for the most part, there's all kinds of different tiers too. You have like the Aldis, you got the Walmarts for kind of that cheap food if you want, a little less expensive. Then you got kind of your Vons, Ralph's, normal grocery stores. Then you got Trader Joe's, Sprouts. You got high-end food, and there's also one in Encinitas called Lazy Acres. If you go in there, it costs you a pretty penny. Those places aren't cheap at all. But going out for food, that is where it can get a little pricey. So we went out. Well, one thing I want to bring up too, burrito inflation. So back in the day, you get let's just call it bean and cheese burrito, something nice and simple. It was probably like $3.50, $4. Now you're looking about $7.50, which it does, you know, from, I don't know, it's like, I guess not too bad. It's like double in probably 20 years. So I guess maybe that's a deal. Maybe that is where the deal's at. So one place we like to go out, it's this place called Los Tacos over in Encinitas, and it's fantastic Mexican food, really good. Family of 4, we got, you know, burritos, tacos, kids platters, which kids quesadillas are huge, so because it actually lasted you a few days, but it was like 50 bucks. All right, that's just like a quick, easy to go something. Let's go grab something to eat. But for our anniversary, we went out to a place over in Rancho Santa Fe called the Pony Room. Now we're getting, it's just, once again, just us four, wife, the kids, and it was about, I'll get to the price in a sec. But, you know, appetizers, some meals, we're getting a few drinks, you know, celebrating a little bit. And even though it's in Rancho, yeah, it's a little pricey, but casual. It's actually a really cool spot. If you're out here, go check it out at La Valencia Hotel, which is a beautiful resort out there. But it was about $250, $300, somewhere in that range. So, you know, that kind of stuff could get pricey if you're just going on a date for two, maybe 150-ish. If you're getting the drinks, if you're getting some apps, if you're getting some dessert, it could add up quite a bit. And then one thing about San Diego, we have a ton of farms. I read that it's the most small farms in any county in the US. Fact check me, not sure if that is true, but there are a lot of farms. Even though right now we're just in a suburban neighborhood, there's a lot of little farms around here. So with the farms comes farmers markets, and those aren't cheap either. Now, I did find a really good deal at the Cardiff Farmers Market, a nice 2-scoop poke bowl, fantastic. I think it was from Nico's, I think it was Nico the fishmonger, something like that. It was like $19. It was $20 because I added avocado on it for $1. But and I guess avocados, I'll touch on that too. While you go to the store, groceries, bananas, whatever, that's all going to be relatively the same. Avocados here might be a little cheaper because we do have a lot of avocados here. So you can find them on like roadside stands, farmers markets, where they're like $1.50 a piece or something, depending on where you're coming from. I don't know if that is cheap or not. But the other thing I got was some almond butter. It was like maybe a 16-ounce jar, and just, you know, this dude makes it. It's pretty good, pretty tasty, but it was like $20. So farmers markets, hit or miss, depending on what you're looking for. You can find some relatively affordable stuff. You can find some really good breads. You can find some really good different items, obviously fresh fruit and veggies, but some things are just a little pricey. So here's some of the trash cans that we talked about earlier. So you got some, you know, they got the three, the trash, the recycling, and the green waste. So hopping into schools again. Public schools, pretty good. You can find, dive in on their websites, figure out which one is going to work best for you. Obviously, those are all free. Another thing we have out here, I don't know if they're everywhere, but we have something called charter schools, where they're public schools, but you have to apply to get in there. They have a charter, meaning they're like focused on a certain kind of topic or a certain kind of way of teaching, or they have their charter. So those are free as well, but depending on wait lists and stuff, it might take a little bit to get in there. There's also a lot of private schools here in San Diego, and they could vary in price by quite a bit. So the average is about $16,000 per year, but it could go on up to like 30,000 plus. I mean, it could get a little bit expensive. So if you're going to private school, you know, there are those options, but it can get a bit pricey. Now, one thing that a lot of people do need, because some places don't have transitional kindergarten, so you're gonna need preschool for an extra year, daycare, all that kind of stuff. Preschool's not cheap either. There's cheaper options. You can search around. There's all kinds of different styles where you have like little backyard preschools. They have kind of the table set up outside, which are pretty cool. They have kind of like the Montessori type schools. They have kind of the chain Bright Horizon style schools. So it's a lot of different options, but on average, I would say for a full-time preschool, Monday through Friday, it's going to be about $1,000 to about $1,700. So California is definitely known for taxes, one of them being the sunshine tax. Sorry, there's a bunch of bees flying around. I don't know if you can see those in here, but let me get through this little section here. I don't know where they all came from, but the sunshine, actually, go back to solar, the sun pays us. So the sunshine tax, I don't know who's getting taxed there. Anyways, the sunshine tax, there's no monetary value, but it is beautiful out here. I mean, like I said, it is a gorgeous day. But for California as a whole, we're on a progressive income tax basis. So it's anywhere from like 1 to 13.3% depending on your income level. And you know, that is pretty high, I would say. Plus you're paying all these other taxes I'm going to tell you about. Plus you have federal income taxes. So what you make is not necessarily what you make, but you do get to enjoy all that San Diego has to offer. You guys are going to stay tuned too. When I'm done with my little walk up here, it's one of the best views in all of North County. And the sales tax for, so is anything you're buying for San Diego, is right around 7.75%. So just another tax on everything you're purchasing. Now, some cities have a little extra tax. I think Vista might have a little extra, Del Mar might have a little extra, but the base is like 7.75% for a lot of that. Now, doesn't include groceries. I think most groceries are not taxable unless it's like hot prepared food, plus a few other items. There's like a long list of like, yeah, alcohol, that kind of stuff, but certain things are not taxable. And I obviously mentioned the gas isn't cheap. A lot of people drive Teslas. I see a lot of hybrids out there, but also on top of our gas. So the price you see on the main marquee is what you pay, but included in that is like a lot of like California taxes and excise taxes and stuff like that. So that's part of the reason why it is so expensive. So we are a commuter town. You are going to use your car a lot, but you'll get used to it. I think they got up to like almost $7 recently. Now we're sitting right around $5. And then there's a few other items, maintenance items around the house you're going to want to be aware of that you might not have to do. Year-round pool maintenance. We don't drain our pools or anything, so your pool guys come in basically all year. Probably about $150 for standard size pool. Goes up obviously if it's bigger. Yeah, landscapers, you're definitely going to want to, I mean, a lot of people do. You can't take care of the pool yourself. You can take care of the yard yourself. A lot of people do that, but landscapers, once again, how big's your yard, how much you paying, but relatively affordable. If you do have like big palm trees and stuff, that costs a lot to maintain, because they got to come out, maintain them like, I don't know, 6 months, a year, depending on what it is. My pops used to do his own, but it gets a little dangerous as they get taller. So a lot of people do take care of that. Pest maintenance, like every month, some people do have like the termite company will come check it out, maybe spray for bugs around the house. That is another cost. Some of these costs too, if you have an HOA, you won't have to worry about. So the HOA is going to take care of most of the maintenance around kind of the property, depending on if you're like in a townhome condo HOA. If you're in a house HOA like San Leo Hills and different areas like those master plan, the HOA doesn't really do that. Maybe they'll take care of the parks and stuff, but not necessarily the ones around your house. Pool maintenance is obviously going to be you, but if you have a community pool, that will be included in the HOA as well. Weekly housekeeping, all those kind of things, they definitely add up, especially on top of everything else we've already talked about. One thing that's coming up here in summer, the kids are out of summer, you're gonna want to sign them up for camps. We don't have like sleepaway camp where they go for multiple weeks at a time, but there's a lot of little camps, surf camps, skate camps, gymnastic camps, all kinds of fun stuff they do for summer, swim camps, but they're not cheap either. They're like right around $350 a kid per week. So if you want to send them there at certain times during the week, yes, it is going to cost more during the summer times. So is there anything free in San Diego? Yeah, for sure. These trails out here are free. These beautiful views. I mean, it is, I keep saying it, but it is gorgeous out here. We have like way up here, you got Oceanside, some more of San Marcos back here. You got Escondido over that way. Elfin Forest, which is part of Escondido over here. Down there you have, I think, so Rancho Santa Fe, Encinitas, Carlsbad, all of it's visible from up here at Double Peak Park. But so all the outdoor activities, trails, hiking, all that kind of stuff is all free for sure. Beaches are going to be free, except you might need a parking pass. Obviously beach toys, you're gonna need a lot of sunblock, so that is another expense that will get you. And then a lot of cities too, they have free events throughout the year. So concerts in the park, flicks at the fountain over in Carlsbad, a lot of these community events too. So you will see a lot of cities trying to provide that. Street fairs, parades. Vista has a strawberry festival. So every little city is going to have a bunch of different stuff. And one other thing I did read, that San Diego has a higher inflation rate than the average throughout the United States. So San Diego average over the last 35 years, 3.7% inflation rate, where it was like 2.5, something like that for the rest of San Diego. So it is a little bit higher here as well, but if you guys are thinking about moving out here, you got some questions, numbers popping up right now. Call now, take a screenshot, whatever you need. We got your back when making the move here to San Diego.